Greetings and welcome, shrub crafters. I am back out with my familiar stump in the background. It's where we put the sexy gun porn on. This is going to be real quick because I don't have my other cameras with me today, and I was debating even about shooting something right now. But I have a happy accident, and I figured I would share that with you. Let's see. Here you go. Should be familiar by now with Thompson Center. Check out that. Broken screw in the back, so it's not one of mine. Some raised finish, so those of you who are in the know already about these type of guns. The lock is not color case hardened. Double set triggers. And 45 cal, and that is a Hawken. And front sight and muzzle. So, we'll see, you guys are going to be backwards. K. Alright, I was on Gunbroker and I've been watching some things because I have my Hawken 50 Thompson factory gun. This year I missed a deer with it at 28 yards. So, for some reason with that gun, it's one of those, and I'm sure a bunch of you can relate to this, is the mental... it's like archery. If you shoot archery, I guess that would be the way. Is if you have a mental mind fuck per se, you get out there and you say, "Hey, here we go. I'm good. The gun shoots phenomenal." Every time you shoot that gun, you know you're going to do well. Well, that 50 for some reason has never grouped well for me, and I think it's the combination of patch and ball thickness and so on. And so something just has never fit with that gun. And for whatever reason, I had even sighted that gun in, checked it before season, carried it, and I had two guns with me, and for whatever reason, at 28 yards. Now, the only thing in my defense was the deer was standing kind of like in a depression. Okay, so there's like the opposite, it's kind of like a U-shaped bowl, and the deer was standing there. So even though it was 28 yards or 31 yards, something like that, maximum. I was like maximum. So it was a damn close shot. Which is why it's important to practice close. I put the ball where I thought it was supposed to be. I see the deer jump, and I see it run off. And a little bit of wait. I'm like, all right, cool. I don't see it go down anywhere, but I saw where it ran to, so I'm just waiting. And so I get up half hour later just to make sure, because I figure if it's dead, it's dead, and it doesn't really matter at that point. And go to where I shot it, and I don't see anything. I see the footprints, and I see the tiniest little of that white belly fur. Not like stomach belly fur, but that kind of chest underneath the arm fur. I see one drop of blood, and it was that bright red, like you cut your finger blood. And so I was like, all right. So we go slow, and if you're not familiar with tracking, maybe we should do a video someday about tracking and so on. However, the easiest thing to do is get a stick and break it or cut it to the distance from one set of tracks to the next. And that's going to be the distance of that deer or person or whatever you're tracking going. And so you go from one end, and you just kind of looking at 180, 360 range, depending, to the next drop of blood, so on. So I had one drop of blood, a little more hair, one tiny little drop of blood again, and a little bit more hair, and then nothing. So at this point, I stopped. We really scoured the area for what you're doing. Didn't find anything. So I said, all right, well, at that point, I went visually to the next set of tracks, which were still running at quite a good clip. And I said, way out, started doing, pathway, walking back and forth, nothing. So I went home, grabbed my thermal binocular, went back out, and this was early morning, took this binocular, and I scoured the area, which is pretty wide open undergrowth, and there's absolutely no sign of any deer or animal, whatever. And so I could verify based on squirrels that my thermal was working. I missed. So I did a low shot under the belly. And when I say it was standing in the U, it was probably like 10 feet apart in the U. And it was on the inside uphill section. And so when I aimed, I guess the only thing is, and I was aiming in between a stick like this that was crossing. So I either nicked the stick, hard to say because there was a little bit missing, but I'm not going to say I hit the stick. So as I was aiming between this notch where they were crossing for the deer, I have a feeling it was in that under side, so I was actually kind of deceived on the distance of where it was on the back hill and standing. Still shouldn't have missed. And again, that's knowing the load in the gun. And I think sadly, in my mind, I was just a little mental block as well. So took that, and I passed that on to my uncle. I told him to look at it and see what he can figure out with it. In the meantime, I have a 45 Hawken that was not a kit gun that shoots exceptionally well, and I almost took that one that morning. And I just got a rear sight for it in the Williams FP sight, and the screw for the back of that is not long enough to raise my elevation, because I actually have one of the Thompson original peep sights that's meant for their ladder vernier type sight. I'm going to use it with the peep just because with my eyes, and after the accident and everything, this eye I can still see really clear, but it gives me a little bit better focal point, which leads us to this gun. So since I was doing that, I was like, oh man, you know, I keep waiting for Thompson to release their new lineup of muzzle loading. It doesn't look like they've got anything in the works for the Hawken or traditional line. And so I was like, oh man, there's a barrel, there's a lock. I said, perfect. And I had 3 identical of these guns, and that's the problem with these guns, they all look the same. So I had 3 identical ones that were pretty close in price on Gunbroker, and this one was $2.99. And I was like, oh yeah, that's the one. And I quickly put my bid in. I put $350 top for my bid. And lo and behold, you know, I mean, it was a half hour to go to the auction. And remember, 15-minute rule says if you bid within the last 15 minutes, it resets your 15-minute timer. So I put it in about 30 minutes before. Nobody bid again, and so I won it. That was on a later at night, so I paid for it right away, sent everything through. And as I was looking at the pictures the next day, I was like, oh man, there's a K in front of the serial number. And so what that means to those of you who don't know, K stands for kit. So you can get a massive cluster and a terrible gun, or you could get an absolute brilliant one that somebody put together well. And so I'm going to flip you around here and hopefully get you to see, but I shot some groups, and this actually is a great purchase for me. All right, so one of the things you can see is there's actually a little recess where some of the wood sticks out. And this is dirty because I shot, I don't know, 10 or so rounds just now. It's a little low on the back here on the breech. Barrel fitment's nice. And then the trigger guard actually is recessed. And so I can't remember how much of this gun you actually had to do. You can see they didn't really inlay this end. That's not a big deal. But there is one of the brass screw heads was stripped out and broken. Let's see if I can get this here. I don't have any nails on my finger. Let's see. Bouncing all over here, sorry. Making you seasick. Let me see. Let me get a screwdriver out. There we go. And so I know these were finished ahead of time, and then you have to kind of finish that. So, I mean, sits flush, is nice, doesn't pop out. And then on the butt here, you can see, hopefully, right there, they broke off part of that brass screw. So I don't know who broke that off, when it was broke off or not. And then lastly, when I first got it today and took it out of the shipping container extremely well, I went to set this rear trigger, which is your set trigger, and absolutely nothing happened. It would not set. So I took everything apart, and this set screw here puts tension on your trigger to make it hair or not. And so if this won't reset, which it does now, because front trigger went forward, and that's very hair now. So that was too deep in. Somebody had cranked it all the way in. That didn't allow any play in here or here to set. So it was basically, in essence, keeping this one from setting, because that trigger has a notch in the front, and as it's sitting in, it clicks into place, holds that front trigger, and then just slips off that shelf. Anyway, I'm sure most of you know that if you're watching this. If you're new and you buy one of these guns, it doesn't have to be a kit gun, any of the guns, if you buy them used and it's not setting that trigger, take it apart, and well, you actually don't even have to take it apart. I took mine apart just because it's a brand new gun and rusty. And by rusty, it was like light surface gunk. It actually really wasn't rust. It was oiled down well. As we're walking here, I want to see, I think all the patches are probably in this giant puddle of water. Yeah, here we go. Nice. cut at the muzzle. Look at that. It looks really nice. Using, this is blue pillow ticking. Hand cast 445 round ball. Soaked in hoppies, black powder, solvent, and patch lube. We're going to see. Oh, there's another one in the tree. I'm cutting at the muzzle out of strips, and so for these strips I actually have 4 solid strips of blue, wide, and then cut with scissors. Okay. Anyway, those patches look awesome. That's a good sign. So I did clean the barrel. I did take everything apart. I looked at it. Seemed pretty good overall. Light rust, no pitting, nothing major. A little bit rough going in, which is to be expected of any of these guns. And it surprisingly was not shipped to me loaded, which is great because you always hear a lot of people say guns were loaded. Everything overall was taken care of really well. So we're gonna go see some groups. First shot I'm shooting 50 grains, 3F Schutzen. And I'm pouring that into a powder measure and going out. So I'm gonna show you, we have our first shot here on target. These actually stacked really nice. I'm very happy. So the first shot was here. I did a second shot here. I did a third shot here. I did a fourth shot here. I did a fifth shot. And then I tried to move my sight because I was trying to get it to go up here roughly where I was aiming. So then I went way up. I did a 6th shot here. I did a 7th shot here as I was coming over to the right. I came way back and hit 9. I did 10, and then I did an 11th and I'm sorry. Yeah, 9, 10, somewhere in here. So this is actually like I think 5 or 6 balls in here before I could, because I kept going slowly trying to get it to go over because those sights are funky. And then this was my final shot right here. So it was actually this one, and then I went over here, came back and came down, and then I did my final one. And so I was aiming right here, and it's just below muzzle. So I'm gonna stop there. There's at least 12 shots on here. None surprisingly missed. Now I am shooting off of the tripod, and I am actually shooting away. I don't normally shoot with these Hawkens. They have that nice curve in that trigger guard. And so normally I don't use that trigger guard to pull into my shoulder. Today I said I'm going to start shooting this one right out of the gate, 50 grains, 3F Schutzen, and that's the blue pillow ticking from Walmart. I believe that actually measures between 18 thousandths and 20 thousandths thick with the calipers, and I'm using that hand cast ball, seating it, and then I'm making a nice loop over the top, and with a pair of scissors I'm cutting that pretty tight. So there is excess wrapping around the top of the ball. And so setting the rear trigger, I'm going off the tripod. I am at 50 yards, and set that pretty darn hair on that front trigger. And what's nice is as I'm touching that off, I'm using the middle finger on that finger hook, pulling into my shoulder, which is not a way that I normally shoot, because I found I can sometimes pull too hard. But this one, from consistency, I mean, you can see 12 shots in a fantastic group. The ones to the far right on the target were me as I adjusted over. I did like 6 extra to raise it up, which went way up high. I came back down 3, went back up 1, and landed kind of spot right in the middle. I still think I can probably go back up 1 click up, but I'm going to clean this, and we'll do that on another time to verify. But right now at 50 yards, slinging it right out there, hitting almost point aim, out of there. So it is super, super nice. Anyway, that was a surprise. I was a little disappointed when I ended up waking up the next day and I was like, oh crap, I just bought a kit gun, which explains why nobody was bidding on them at $2.99. So I didn't even bother looking at the other ones that went what they sold for, but I can't imagine they were much more than $350 or $400 tops. And there is a local gun dealer here a couple years back, probably I think it was the year of COVID, 2020. They had a brand new in the box, 2 of them, a 50, or I'm sorry, 3 of them. They had the 50, the 54, and a 45 in kit form, but they wanted $750 a piece in the box new, which was still a little excessive. Anyway, not bad. So that's a nice one on the weekend. I'm gonna flip this around again and give you a little bit of gun. Look at that. There's just something to be said about those Hawken barrel stampings. And I'll tell you, whoever put this gun together, thank you. You're bringing me joy. And you did a decent job overall. So I'm sure I could find something to complain about. I always do. I think that's just my personality. You know, there's a little bit of what used to be surface rust or pitting at one point, but I love how they left this in the white. The nipple, I got to figure out, I don't know what caps I was using now. It was out of the Polish capper. But overall, I'm liking that. So I'm using the Polish capper to cap these. And I can't remember if I put 10s or if these were Remington 11s. I mean, they all fit slightly different. So I do have a brand new nipple I happened to order for a different gun that doesn't need it yet. And so I might just put a new one on because I know that's a number 11 for that. Anyway, hope everybody's doing fantastic. And with that, continue, get out, have fun, stay safe, and hopefully you're shooting straight.